Hello YouTube and welcome to the Miniature Construction Company. Now just a couple of brief points before we get into the main content. First off, sort of an apology. I haven't really been putting out many videos of late. That's because I've had a few things on my plate and unfortunately just haven't had the time. So I've had a few new subscribers recently and they won't have seen any new content. So basically apologies for that. Now the second thing is, does anybody know what the crack is with this change in YouTube policy with regards to kid-friendly videos? I've already had YouTube mark some of the videos as for being for children. So if anyone's got any advice on that, I'm all ears because I personally haven't got a clue. But without further ado, let's move on to the subject of today's video. Now, as you guys may or may not be aware, recently I've been producing a lot of videos where I've been upgrading my WPL B1, and in doing so I've sort of neglected the little gas truck, the WPL B24. Now I hope to rectify this today by fitting this, or trying to fit this. It's a genuine WPL twin N30 motor kit. I know I'm a bit late to the party with regards to this mod, but I've had it in the spares box for a while. I've been dying to see what they're like, so I've taken the opportunity to try this today, get rid of the Gaz's 180 motor, because if you've watched the previous videos on the B1, you'll know that I fitted a 260 motor to it, and it's become very apparent that the 180 in Gaz isn't really sufficient anymore. It is lacking. So hopefully by fitting this little conversion, this little mod, we'll get a lot more torque. What it's going to be like with the standard WPL ESC and sound card board thing, I'm not quite sure, so we'll soon find out. Right, now we have the truck bed removed. I've got full access to the motor. I think what we might be able to do is just undo the gearbox, the drive shafts, and these frame braces, slide it all out, and we should be able to slide the new twin motor setup in, instead of having to take all this lot off. Now I cheekily soldered it all up while after I took the truck bed off, and now there's no instructions that come with these motors, no wiring diagram, but I'm presuming that they have to be soldered in parallel. So in effect what we get is these two little wires here, positive to positive, negative to negative on the two little motors, and then the power lead from the ESC, obviously you just solder as you would normally onto one set of terminals on one of the motors. So hopefully I have quickly checked it. They do seem to revolve, rotate in the same direction, so we'll see if we run into any issues with that later on. But I think that's what I'm going to do, is get rid of all this lot here, slide it all out, and then we should be able to slide this lot in. Well, that was fairly straightforward. All I've done, like I said, is unscrew all the brackets, slide it all out of the frame rail, including the old motor and case, and slide the new gearbox and motor mount down the frame rails, and then just secure with the two little screws that hold the fuel tanks on as well. The only problem I did have was that in the distant past I must have super glued the drive shaft on, so I had to get some mole grips on to get that off. So without The next thing to do is put all this lot back on, connect up the drive shafts, hopefully they're not at a too daft an angle, and we'll give it a whirl. Bear with me. Okay, I've put everything back together and put the brackets back in the frame, or slid the brackets back in the frame, attached the axles, put the drive shafts on. Now I have run into a couple of problems. The first of which was the sort of angle of the drive shafts, but I got round this by flipping the axles over, so taking the springs off and flipping the axles over. But this had the effect of reversing the direction of drive, so what I've then had to do is swap the positive and negative lead round from the power source to the motors, so they effectively rotate in a forwards and backwards direction, and that corresponds with the transmitter. The other issue I'm having is the fact I seem to be losing drive to one of the motors when they come up to an obstacle. Now I did quickly try it before, and what I was going to do was show you the truck working, but I noticed that when any resistance or any great resistance was applied to one set of wheels, they would actually stop rotating, and it's almost as if there isn't enough power to propel both motors at the same time. Now I'm hoping that the batteries are a bit low in the truck. They're on charge, so I'm going to put a full charge in them and see what it's like then. But I've got a horrible feeling the standard sound card ESC from WPL doesn't put out enough power to propel both these motors. I might have wired it up incorrectly, I'm not sure. I'm wondering if I need, but it's the front motor. The front motor seems particularly weak. I have got another kit and I have swapped it out for another motor to try, but it does exactly the same thing for some reason. So I'm wondering if I need to possibly swap the power leads and have one lead on the positive on one of the batteries and one lead going to the negative on the other motor. See what happens. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well here, but there seems to, when you hold one set of wheels, you immediately lose drive, as if there's not enough power to rotate the wheels. It goes back and forwards, but if you clamp or hold one set of wheels, they immediately stop. There's no power there, and the power sort of transmitted to the other set. So like I say, I'm trying to charge the battery, see if that makes any difference. If it doesn't, I'm going to try swapping the leads over to the motors, and like I say, instead of having the power leads going to one motor, have one half of the power lead, the positive going to the positive on one motor and the negative on the other, and see what happens. Okay, so I fully charged the batteries, which had no effect. I swapped over the power leads, so one lead went to the positive on one motor terminal and the negative to the other. That had no effect, apart from making the wheels turn in opposite directions. The thing I tried next was actually to swap these two little power cables that come in the kit for something of a bigger gauge. That has actually made a big difference. It's actually cured one of the set of wheels cutting out. Now definitely got a bit more oomph about it. I was actually about to give up on it and thinking that I would need an ESC in the standard WPL sound board and ESC combo. Didn't put out enough oomph to power these two motors, but it's got a bit of a lease of life since I swapped these over. So without further ado, let's go out and try it and see what it's actually like outside. Now at this point I thought I'd take it outside and do a bit of a climb test with it. Started the board off at a not a particularly steep angle. It managed this climb, no problems whatsoever. The next one, however, it did seem a little laboured, as though this was pretty much its limit. It gets stuck initially, but that's just the departure angle on the back. At this point, however, it's really beginning to struggle. I think the angle of the board is a little bit too much for it now. In conclusion then, what did I think of the twin N30 motor setup? To be honest, I didn't really see any improvement in power and torque over the 180 that I took out of it, even with having a little faff around with it. I did notice that when one set of wheels would get into difficulty, get stuck, they'd just stop and the other set would just continue to spin. So you'd lose your four-wheel drive. There was no real torque involved. I've got a sneaky suspicion this is because of the standard ESC sound card that's in this. Now, I would like to try the twin motors with an ESC, but I really don't want to get rid of the sound. That's the thing. I'm sure they would perform a lot better with an ESC, providing them with a bit more oomph. So my advice to anyone thinking of buying a set of these, it's an interesting concept, but I wouldn't use the stock electronics. I'd make sure it was running an ESC. I think I'm going to try it in the future with an ESC on it to see what difference it does make. I'm sure it'll be different again. But with the stock electronics, with the stock WPL sound kit, I don't think it gives it enough power. Certainly not any more than the 180. I didn't really notice any great leaps in drivability. So if you're going to thinking about it and you're running it on the stock electronics, don't bother. There is a link in the description below to the N30 motor kit if anyone's interested. As ever, if you've enjoyed this video and found it of some use, please don't forget to hit the like and click the subscribe button if you're feeling that way inclined, and hopefully I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.